Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Welcome to the show. I'm still giving away a Trumpy Bear. You can enter to win simply by joining my email list. To join the list, simply email me at patriots@eddiezipper.com and I will add you to the list and enter you to win the Trumpy Bear. All right, he bears a striking resemblance to the 45th President of the United States. He has the same fantastic head of hair. The time is running out on this one, so email me soon, patriots@eddiezipper.com. That's patriots@eddiezipper.com. All right, today I am delving deep into the weeds on Brett Kavanaugh's Senate confirmation. First thing I want to talk about. Don't believe the hype that in some mythical version of the American Republic, judicial nominations, confirmations, and appointments were not political. Okay, that was never the case. They have always been political from the very beginning. All right, fire up the flux capacitor and let's go back to the early days of the Republic. The first big Supreme Court precedent, Madison versus Marbury. You know about this one. You learned it in your 9th grade civics class. Marbury versus Madison established judicial review. You already know that. But how many people really know what that case was all about, and not just the precedent that it set? Because the precedent is huge. We all know judicial review, Marbury versus Madison. All right, so it was the election of 1800. It was the nastiest, most fake news riddled election of all time. It's an election I've talked about on the show a couple of times, so I'm not going to get back into it. Just know it was much nastier than the 2016 election, okay? So that election was over, and for the first time ever, Democratic Republicans won power away from the Federalists. Before this, Federalists had always been in power. They got to run everything in all three branches of government. Now, the Democratic Republicans had won the presidency and the Congress. So now, lame duck President John Adams and the lame duck Federalist Congress still have several months to be in power. Okay, it wasn't January 20th back then. That wasn't inauguration back then. The new president took over in March. So, what do you think the Federalists did during their last few months in power? Right before they were about to hand over two branches of government to the other party, the Democratic Republicans. Of course, what they did is they tried to cement the third branch. They tried to cement their power in that third branch of government, the judicial branch. That was the only branch they had left. All right, so what do? They passed the Judiciary Act of 1801, which created all these new courts, and John Adams, president, started nominating midnight judges as fast as he could, one after the other. Let's get as many Federalist judges into the government as we possibly can. So Adams starts appointing these midnight judges as fast as he can, and the Senate is confirming him as fast as they can. Voice votes probably. All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. The nominee is confirmed. So one of those midnight judges was William Marbury. Okay, so Jefferson becomes president in March and appoints the father of the Constitution, James Madison, as Secretary of State. And back then, Secretary of State was a position that was domestic. It's not like the Secretary of State now. And they decide not to commission the midnight judges. And the new Democratic-Republican Congress passes the Judiciary Act of 1802, which reverses much of the Judiciary Act of 1801. So long story short, Marbury, who was one of those judges appointed by John Adams, sues in order to receive his commission. He wants the court to issue a writ of mandamus forcing Madison to commission him. He says the Judicial Act of 1789 gives the Supreme Court the power to issue that writ of mandamus. And a writ of mandamus is simply an order from the court for a public official to take some certain action. But wait, The Marshall Court says that writs of mandamus are unconstitutional, which makes the Judicial Act of 1789 unconstitutional. Boom. Judicial review is established. Lesson: don't take the father of the Constitution to court because you're going to lose. All right, I like to talk about how shrewd this decision by John Marshall was, who was the Chief Justice of the United States at the time. But I'm going to have to talk about that some other time. I'm in a hurry right now because I got so much to get to. The point wasn't Marbury versus Madison. The point of the story was the overt political attempt to cement the Federalist Party's power on the court. Ironically, this decision did more for federalism than a million Federalist judges. That, like I said, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the case some other time. All right, so what happens in the executive and legislative branches of government is always political. Why did Republicans obstruct President Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland? Because they had the political power to do that. Everybody always does what they have the political power to do. Always. Okay, there's nobody in the executive or legislative branch who is going around doing altruistic things to help the other party. That is a silly myth. Anybody who's doing that is completely naive about politics, and anybody who's completely naive about politics is not up at that level. All right, so Republicans blocked Merrick Garland because they had the political ability to do so and get away with it. Democrats would love to block Brett Kavanaugh right now. They would do it if they had the political power. I don't think they're going to have the political power. That's what I'm about to talk about. But what happens in the executive and legislative branches of government is always political. Nominations are political, confirmations are political, and the eventual appointment is political. That's why justices of the Supreme Court sit for life. That's the only way to create a situation where the person is free to be apolitical. They will never again, as long as they live, need approval from another voter or representative or senator ever in their life. That's the whole point. That's what Alexander Hamilton tells us. I mean, this is not me saying it. It's Alexander Hamilton in Federalist Paper number 78. So right now I'm going to talk about some of the political realities that exist in the Senate that will affect the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court Justice. First, Senator Tom Carper, a Democrat from Delaware, tweeted, "Since 2006, Judge Kavanaugh has revealed his true colors, and his substantial record over that time period has proven to be a profound disappointment. It also stands in stark contrast with what the American people want." This is a really funny and interesting tweet. It's the only tweet from a Democrat on Kavanaugh you'll see that starts out since 2006. Why does it start that way? Because Carper is the only sitting Democratic senator who voted to confirm Kavanaugh in 2006 to the second highest court in the land. Presumably, Carper was expecting Kavanaugh to be liberal, and so he was wildly disappointed. That's pretty weird, since Kavanaugh told you at the confirmation that he is a registered Republican. That's pretty weird considering his career prior to his 2006 appointment to the second highest court in the land was strictly partisan based. I mean, he was working in the George W. Bush White House. So, Carper is probably kicking himself right now because guess what? Kavanaugh was less qualified to be on the second highest court in the land in 2006 than he is to be on the highest court in the land in 2018. He's definitely qualified now. Before, in 2006, there were questions about his qualifications, but now that he's served for a dozen years on a court that high, now there's no question about his qualifications. All right, so this tweet does not pass the smell test. This is obviously nothing but a wildly transparent political flip-flop. All right, onward. Heitkamp, Manchin, and Donnelly. I 100% expect those senators to vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. All of those senators were last elected in 2012 when the Obama turnout machine was to their advantage. Obstructing President Trump while they are campaigning for those seats in Indiana, West Virginia, and North Dakota. Those are states that Trump won huge. So obstructing President Trump while they are campaigning in those states would be political suicide. They will simply lose their elections if they obstruct President Trump during the campaign. All right. The Democratic Party does not care if they're going to lose their elections. Like a true whip, Dick Durbin said last week on one of the Sunday shows that they should sacrifice themselves to the cause of obstruction. Basically, he wants them to be metaphorical, some kind of political kamikaze pilots crashing their careers into Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah. Because that's what happens all the time in politics, right? Politicians always sacrifice their own personal power. I think that is sort of a Hail Mary from Dick Durbin there. That's an illogical hope. That is basically space alien logic.
This is ancient Earth's most foolish program. Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5?
That's Lur from Futurama, in case you didn't know what space alien logic sounds like. I think that's the most hilarious clip. Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5? I just love that. All right, so space alien logic aside, that people like Heitkamp, Donnelly, and Manchin should just sacrifice their careers for the Democratic cause. That's not going to happen. All 3 of those senators voted yay on Gorsuch. That was when the election was over a year away. All right, they can't go around their state campaigning on how much they're going to work with President Trump while they're simultaneously obstructing his Supreme Court nominee. Be serious, Dick Durbin. All right, looking at some other important senators, I do not know what will happen with John McCain. I do know that he supports Kavanaugh, but it does not look like he's going to be able to cast a vote. All right, sometimes on smaller votes, if a senator is sick or ailing the way John McCain is, or has a death in the family, or can't show up to vote for some reason in that milieu, someone from the other party will serve as that person's proxy. And they'll say, I'm voting this way because John McCain is absent, so I'm putting in my vote for him. Frankly, if I were a red state Democrat, like maybe McCaskill or Tester, I would be aching to be asked by John McCain to do that. I would have him on the phone begging him for the honor of casting that vote for him. It sort of provides an easy way out for any senator who might want that. Now, if you're intent on blocking him, obviously you're not going to do that. But if you want to play if you want to play both sides, that would be the best way to try to play both sides on this. I mean, that's certainly what I would do if I was in that position. Basically, what that would do is give you moral high ground for taking the politically expedient course of action. It lets you do what one side wants you to do, while at the same time being understandable and likable to the other side. All right, so down to Alabama. Doug Jones of Alabama, there's no telling what he's going to do. All right, he voted for Pompeo to be confirmed, but he voted against Gina Haspel's confirmation. So he's voted with Trump about 50% of the time, and this is according to 538's tracker. They have a really great tracker where they show you how often each senator votes with the president. So as a benchmark for that, okay, Doug Jones has voted with Trump about 50% of the time. As a benchmark, Elizabeth Warren votes with President Trump about 10% of the time. So that's the most liberal people in the Senate vote for Trump vote with Trump about 8 to 10% of the time. That's very, very low. All right, Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, votes with Trump about 25% of the time. All right, Jones, Donnelly, Heitkamp, and Manchin are all over 50% of the time. And Manchin, I think, is even over 60% of the time. Murkowski and Collins, for a little bit more perspective, they vote with Trump, and this is actually probably a number that's going to surprise you. They vote with Trump about 80% of the time. That's actually more consistently, they're more consistently with Trump than Rand Paul is. He's below it. He's like at 74%. All right, so polls in all those states, the states that we're talking about, the states where, well, the states that are red states where a Democrat is running for re-election. All right, polls in all those states show that big majorities want Kavanaugh confirmed. 56% in Florida, 56% in Indiana, 57% in Missouri. That's where Claire McCaskill is. 59% in West Virginia and 68% in North Dakota. 68% of North Dakota voters want Kavanaugh to be confirmed. Okay, Heidi Heitkamp is not going to, during an election, during a campaign, obstruct Trump on something that 68% of North Dakotans want to happen. All right, a new Axios poll shows all those senators in some danger of losing in November, especially Bill Nelson in Florida. He might want to strongly consider a yay vote on Kavanaugh. This poll shows him down by 3 points to Rick Scott. It shows Heidi Heitkamp down by 5 points right now. It shows Donnelly down by 2 points right now. Politically, there is just no wiggle room for these senators to vote no on Brett Kavanaugh. All right, and there's no filibuster anymore, thanks Harry Reid. So Kavanaugh only needs 50 votes. That's not a majority, but 50 votes. If Kavanaugh got 50 votes and it was tied, that would trigger a vote from the president of the Senate, who is Vice President Pence, and I think we can all feel comfortable that he's going to come down for Kavanaugh, or if it was 49-49 or something like that. I think right now, I would say Kavanaugh has probably 54 votes. For all the leftist hopes and prayers about Murkowski and Collins objecting to the pick, I don't see that happening. All right, they voted to confirm Gorsuch, so I don't see Kavanaugh as being radically different from Gorsuch. So I think Kavanaugh has 54 votes right now, and I think Democrats should be very careful how hard they try to obstruct. They should probably free up Heitkamp, Manchin, and Donnelly to vote yay. Right, Dick Durbin is the whip, and we've seen him saying they should crash their careers in order to stop Brett Kavanaugh, but he should really think about that. He should think about freeing them up to vote yay on Kavanaugh, because it could save them from a more solidly conservative nominee. Oh, well, what are you talking about? Trump has already nominated someone, so what do you mean it could save them from a more solidly conservative nominee? If Democrats successfully delay the confirmation until after the election, they are going to be sorry. Because Democrats are going to lose seats in the Senate. All right? Democrats are going to lose seats in the Senate. I don't know what will happen in the House of Representatives, where all 435 seats are up for re-election every 2 years, but Republicans are going to gain seats in the Senate. The map just did not work out for Democrats. 10 red state Democrats are up for re-election. Only one blue state Republican is up for re-election. That's just a brutal, unfortunate map for Democrats. Fortunate for me because I want the Republicans to gain seats, but unfortunate for Democrats who have a map that is going to make them lose seats. All right, they will be lucky if they only lose 3 or 4 seats. They will be lucky if they only lose 3 or 4 seats. After the election, once that has happened, President Trump could decide, you know what? I didn't pick Amy Barrett only because she wasn't confirmable. And now she is. And then he could withdraw the nomination of Kavanaugh. I don't think he'll do that, but that is something that he could do. So why would Democrats risk trading a nominee Ben Shapiro gives a grade of B for a nominee Ben Shapiro gives a grade of A+? All right, so Democrats, put on your thinking caps and crank them up to full power. You should really think about what you are going to do in terms of Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. All right, Democrats want to roll the dice on a Supreme Court nominee? Really? Again? I want to take you back in time. I've said this on the show more than once, but I don't want to beat a dead nomination, but it's important not to let Democrats rewrite recent history. Democrats love to rewrite history, but we are not going to let them. Not on this show. Democrats did not want Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court. They wanted Republicans to block that nomination. They were glad Mitch McConnell was blocking that confirmation hearing. They wanted the person that Hillary Clinton was going to nominate after she definitely, without a doubt, won the election in a landslide. Because that was what was going to happen. And Democrats were going to win the Senate, and they were going to get somebody much better than Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland disappointed them. Obama's pick made them sad. Mark Joseph Stern is a writer for Slate, which is a super left-wing outlet. He wrote at the time, President Barack Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court is extremely disappointing. Had Obama nominated a less historically conventional candidate, he could have simultaneously proved that he understands the necessity of empathetic, unorthodox voices on the bench, while also giving the Democratic base a new kind of champion to rally around. No black woman has ever served on the high court. A different pick from Obama's shortlist, U.S. District Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, could have changed that. We've never seen an Indian or a Hindu on the bench. Sri Srinivasan, Garland's brilliant colleague on the D.C. district, could have blazed that trail. Instead, Obama is asking Americans to cheer for yet another white guy. If you didn't recognize it, that was the sound of getting a whammy on Press Your Luck, and that was how the Democrats felt about Merrick Garland. Right? They were like, come on, big liberal, no whammies, and stop! Alright, this is from a CNN article chronicling the giant disappointment. President Obama missed the opportunity to solidify his legacy by appointing a true progressive to the Supreme Court, wrote Kurt Walters of the group Demand Progress. Here's this from Vox. Strategically, Obama's nomination of Garland is designed to force McConnell and his fellow Senate Republicans to weigh how certain they are really that they can get a better deal after the election. The Senate GOP's choice is confirm the most conservative and oldest nominee one could realistically expect from a Democratic president, or accept either a younger, more liberal nominee from Hillary Clinton or a wild card from Donald Trump. And if they choose not to hold hearings at all, the Democrats can run against them as obstructionists who are refusing to do one of the Senate's most basic jobs. How'd that work out for you? All right, here's a piece from just last week. This is from a super left-wing writer at New York Magazine, and I give him credit. I gave him credit last week, but I give him credit for seeing this. It's a smart analysis. He wrote it just about a week ago. Imagine if Barack Obama had nominated the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, one who was young and unabashedly progressive in her jurisprudence. When McConnell subsequently vetoed her appointment and thereby nullified Obama's attempt to give a modicum of representation in the halls of high power to the Democratic Party's most loyal constituency, wouldn't it have been easier to mobilize the Democratic base in outrage than it was to rally them behind Merrick Garland? All right, so the point of all this is that there was no passion on the left for getting Merrick Garland on the bench. Not back then, anyway. There was no outcry because everyone was certain Hillary Clinton would win the election. The left became passionate about their deep affection for Merrick Garland the day after the 2016 election. Suddenly, folks who had never cared before were screaming, "Confirm Merrick Garland now!" Right? They were quietly waiting for Hillary Clinton to swoop in and nominate a more progressive judge, and then their plans got all messed up. All right. The very best example of what I'm talking about here is actually written in a conservative website called Red State. If you're familiar with Red State, you know this is basically a conservative website. And here's what they printed in May of 2016. Republicans must know that there is absolutely no chance that we will win the White House in 2016 now. They must also know that we are likely to lose the Senate as well. So the choices essentially are to confirm Garland and have another bite at the apple in a decade, or watch as President Clinton nominates someone who is radically more leftist and 10 to 15 years younger. And we are in no position to stop it. In fact, if I were the Republicans, my main concern right now would be that Barack Obama will withdraw Merrick Garland's nomination today. The fact that Merrick Garland still exists as an option right now is a gift that should not be squandered. The calculus has changed. Confirm Merrick Garland before it is too late. I'm sorry, that is just too much fun. So in the Red State article, they're lamenting that this is going to happen. But on the left, they're quietly waiting for it to happen. They're excited that it is happening. And they can't wait till Hillary Clinton wins, Democrats win the Senate, and then they can get somebody better than Merrick Garland. That's why there was no outcry until after Trump won the 2016 election. Now, Democrats want to roll the dice again and delay Kavanaugh. Listen to me, Democrats. You should take Kavanaugh while you can. This is a guy conservatives did not want to see as the nominee. All right, most conservatives wanted Amy Barrett to be the nominee. When picking a nominee, Trump had to take into account what is essentially a split Senate. If he had 55 senators and a brand new mandate after the election, he might decide that he can go bigger. Think about it. He might say, you know what, I didn't pick Amy Coney Barrett because they told me she wasn't confirmable. Mitch McConnell told me that she wasn't confirmable, that I had to go with a Kavanaugh. But now she's confirmable. So I'm going to withdraw the Kavanaugh nomination and I'm going to nominate Amy Barrett instead. That could happen to you. Think about it. Don't make the same mistake again. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Email me at patriots@eddiezipper.com. You can enter to win the Trumpy Bear if you ask to join my email list. But that's it for today. I'm out of here.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com. And please subscribe.